Well, good morning, everybody. I now call to order this June 15th, 2016, public hearing to consider amendments to the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan. Before we begin, I invite you to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Way to go, Jim. You're throwing me off. Okay, this morning we will consider ZDO-255, which is a legislative amendment to the text of the county's comprehensive plan. This hearing will proceed as follows. We will first hear staff presentation from Transportation Planning Supervisor Karen Burrig. Next, I will open the public hearing for public testimony, beginning with public officials who will have 5 minutes each. Then, representatives from recognized community planning organizations and agencies will have 3 minutes each. Finally, other people wishing to testify will have 3 minutes each. Assisting us today in the hearing room is our County Clerk, Kevin Moss, to my right, Assistant County Counsel, Nate Boderman, to my left, and Transportation Planning Supervisor, Karen Burrig. If you wish to testify, please complete one of the green cards and give it to Kevin. If you have prepared written statement, please give a copy to Kevin and use your time to summarize what you have written. Everybody who wishes to speak will have an opportunity to do so. We will now hear from Transportation Planning Supervisor Karen Burrig.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning we are hearing a legislative amendment. This amendment package really is here to minimize the impact of an identified wetland by realigning a planned intersection as a part of the 172nd Corridor Plan. So a little background. In 2012, Happy Valley and Clackamas County jointly adopted the 172nd Avenue, 190th Avenue corridor plan. And the purpose of this plan was to identify a cross-section in this area. This road is transitioning from a rural road into an urban road. It also was to identify the corridor that connects 172nd Avenue and 190th Avenue. So these improvements are expected to serve a population that's growing out there. As you know, there's a lot of development occurring, and there's a lot of new population in that area. So it serves both Happy Valley, the Pleasant Valley plan area, and Gresham. Here is a map of the corridor. It goes from Sunnyside to the south, all the way up into Gresham to the north. The section, and I don't know if the pointer isn't going to help anyone. The 190th section that crosses from 170th to 190th is a new section of road that was identified during the original 172nd corridor process. The overall corridor goals basically are to improve mobility, address the fact that there will be additional traffic. It also identifies kind of community, the local community needs. It was identified to minimize impacts to environmental resources, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about specifically today. And it was also, the intent was to provide flexibility. This ZDO proposal is a legislative text amendment. It will change the comprehensive plan. It does not change any of the policies. There is one line in Appendix A where it will add a date that will address the amendment, but all of the other amendments occur in the 172nd Avenue, 190th corridor plan, which is adopted as a part of Appendix A, which then makes it a part of the comprehensive plan. In front of you is an image of the current alignment that's identified within the 172nd corridor plan. The 172nd corridor plan looks out into the future, so what it did during the process, the original process of the 172nd corridor plan, it saw Troge as dipping down to the south of its existing alignment and realigning with 172nd Avenue to the south. What has happened is the development has occurred. and proposals have come in. And as those proposals came in, it was discovered that there was a wetland that actually existed where this dip down would occur. So we needed to look at what other options were out there. Through this process, so the proposed alignment and the proposed recommendation is actually to move the intersection of Troge back up to its existing location and make the improvements there. So the recommendation for this actually came out of some joint work that we've done with Happy Valley. All of this has been done jointly with Happy Valley because this is a plan that's adopted. Both Happy Valley has adopted it and we have adopted it. So we worked with Kittleson and Associates, who was the original contractor on the 172nd Corridor Plan, and they had familiarity with it. We looked at several different alternatives, and we looked at them in relationship to 13 different criteria. Specifically, there was a natural resource analysis, and there was also cost and constructability analysis. Through that analysis, they recommended concept 2, which we moved forward with through the process, and that was this particular alignment that we're moving forward with. What this all means to the 172nd Corridor Plan is basically changes to figures and a few changes to text which reference this intersection. So there are changes to 4 figures that show where Troge intersects with 172nd, and there's a few places that describe the intersection of Troge and 172nd. Overall, through this analysis, we are in compliance with the procedural requirements. We also have done the coordination and notification. We've worked with Happy Valley. Happy Valley, the land area around this area is actually in the city of Happy Valley. The road itself is Clackamas County, so there's the coordination that's happened there. We've met the goals 1 and 12 of the statewide planning goals, and we're in compliance. Well, actually, this change did not impact the Urban Growth Management Functional Plan compliance. And with respect to the Regional Transportation Functional Plan, it met all of the requirements of that. So overall, we've been doing this process jointly with Happy Valley and consecutively. So Happy Valley's Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item, and the Happy Valley City Council on May 3rd adopted a recommendation to make the change to the 172nd, 190th Corridor Plan. No one spoke in opposition. There was one person speaking in favor. The Clackamas County Planning Commission also heard this item. I believe it was on May 23rd. No one spoke in favor or opposition, and the Planning Commission recommended unanimously to adopt the amendments in ZDO 1255. So here, with that, I'll conclude my presentation with the recommendation of approval of ZDO 255.
Thank you, Karen. Does any commissioner have any comments? Commissioner Bernard.
So the wetlands issue, when Kittleson did their analysis, did they draw the intersection, or who does the drawing of the intersection?
Initially, when the 172nd Corridor Plan was undertaken, it really was a broad view. You didn't tool down on every single property. Okay. So I think the issue is that they didn't realize the intensity of that wetland until a development came in where they had to actually look a lot closer at the property specific and didn't identify that problem until that came in.
So that picture that you had up on the screen was not the picture of the actual location.
Let's see. Let me see.
The one with the bridge and the water, because it'd be pretty obvious that there'd be a water issue.
Yeah, they knew that intersection was going to be complicated, and initially, it's my understanding that it had been moved to the south because of that creek that was going through the intersection, and the thought was to avoid that. Okay. Was to move it to the south, but by moving it to the south, it ran into a wetlands. But by moving it back up to the north, they look at a couple of different alternatives, how they could do different bridge structures, and it is feasible to do it. They'll have to make investments, though.
And it's less feasible to disturb the wetlands than it is to fix the bridge issue.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Well, now I will open the public portion of the hearing. Are there any public officials who wish to testify? Seeing none, are there any representatives from any CPOs or agencies that wish to testify? Hello. Seeing none. We will now hear testimony from members of the public who wish to testify. Submit a green card. I see none. We will now close the public hearing. Are there any, we will now close the public comment portion of the hearing and begin deliberation. I'll call for a motion on ZDO-255.
I move, I gotta find the motion. Move to approve ZDO 2-255 as approved by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Commissioner Bernard made the motion and Commissioner Schrader seconded. Any further discussion?
Though I have a lot of questions, I'll just pass today.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you going light on me. If there is no further questions, I will call for a vote on the motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Bernard,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. The motion has passed. Now that ZDO 255 has been approved, I will direct staff to draft an ordinance reflecting today's decision and include it on the agenda for this board's adoption at a future business meeting. No further discussion on anything?
It's a very complicated issue. I'm
It
glad we got
was.
through this.
Yeah. I will now close the hearing on ZDO 255. Thank you, commissioners and staff.